You know what? There's a whole set of new conversation that is coming up, and we are referring to this as competence optimization. And this is exactly, precisely what this book range brings into effect, because this book looks at journalists triumphing in a highly specialized world. Written by David Epstein, this book clearly indicates that someone needs to have a huge spectrum of disciplines from which you pick a specific discipline and then excel. I will be discussing a number of points that relates to this from this book, and I'll begin straight by, first of all, giving you some very, very small task for you to think about as I begin this. About gifts, about talents, coaches, parents, and even young people must be extremely deliberate about it. Do a few things intentionally with an aim of sharpening and bringing out your very best. I want you to look at what you're seeing here on the screen. We have this set of circles in A and set of circles B. And as I begin this discussion, I want to ask you, between the circle in the middle in A and the circle in the middle in B, which one do you think is smaller? Which one do you think is smaller? So take time and look at it, and then we'll be discussing the details as we move forward. So this book is special because it brings out a number of things that have to do with the talents. And in this session, I'll focus on just a few. We expound on them and have a more robust discussion as time goes. Of course, the author begins by looking at two great sportsmen, that is Roger Federa and Tiger Woods. Let's read the first paragraph. Let's read the first paragraph in our conversation here. Here, this paragraph. In 2006, Tiger Woods and Roger Federer met for the first time when both were at the apex of their powers. They were at the apex of their powers. Tiger flew in on his private jet to watch the final of the US Open. It made Federer especially nervous, but he still won for the third year in a row. Woods joined him in the locker room for a champagne celebration. What are we learning from this? It's important that as you move up, number one, you track your peers. Track your peers. It could be in the same field or in the same discipline or other discipline, but it's important you track the peers, how they are performing, their training style, their vision, their targets, and their mission in their training. Look at their tactics, look at their strategies. The second point that you learn from this paragraph is that deep calleth unto the deep. You must excel to attract other excellent players. Don't be so quick to be joining groups of people or to be joining people just for the sake of joining. It's important, sharpen your skills, sharpen your targets, then you are able to move towards other people who have achieved the same level of your achievement. So I then take you back to where we began from. Let me take you back to where we began from, and we will bring out a number of things that are very important in this conversation. So look at the answer that you gave between A and B. Which of those circles looks smaller? I'll be reading a paragraph or two around those circles. Then I will discuss very important points that are poignant in your preparation and in your sharpening of gifts and talents. So let's read from this paragraph here. Let's read from this paragraph. Some of the changes wrought by modernity and collective culture seem almost magical. Luria found most remote villagers were not subject to the same optical illusion as citizens of the industrialized world. Like the Ebbinghaus illusion, which middle circle looks bigger. So when you look at these two circles, which one is bigger or which one is smaller in your answer? I think you've written it down. You know, this was developed by a German psychologist by the name Hermann Ebbinghaus. I think he lived between 1850 and 1909, about 59 years of his stay on Earth. He came up with these circles, and right from just general observation, you are able to conclude that probably A is smaller than B. But in the real sense, that's not the case. Actually, they are of the same size. Let's read the next paragraph. If you say that the one on the right, you are probably a citizen of the industrialized world. The remote villagers saw correctly that they are the same, while the collective farmers and women in teachers' school picked the one on the right. These findings have been repeated in other traditional societies, and scientists have suggested it may reflect the fact that postmodern people are not as drawn to holistic context, the relationship of the various circles to one another. So their perception is not changed by the presence of extra circles. So what we are seeing here is that actually the circles are the same. This circle A and circle B are actually equal. But because of optical illusion, B may look to be, bigger than A. And we are seeing that is because of the environment. We are saying that people in the remote villages were not subject to same optical illusions as citizens of the industrialized world. So I'll not go into, the village setting and the industrialized world. What the author wants us to really appreciate on this is an aspect of the environment. Environment in which we are breeding talents. There is what we are calling as the physical environment. Then there is the social environment. Physical environment would look at the room where you are training from, or the room where you stay. We are looking at the equipment. We are looking at the individual physical humans that you interact with. We are looking at the facility where you train or where you interact and build your talents and other forms of relations. So environment, that's what we are looking at. So the other one is the social. We are looking at the information you receive, the nature of information, the individuals you interact with, what they speak, the books you read, your programs, the movies you watch, and so on and so forth. All these two sets of aspects, they shape gifts and the talents that you have. It's important that you begin by ensuring that you are a highly motivated, a highly visionary person. In this book, the author, let's read a paragraph that is important to. Let's read a paragraph that really looks deep into this. Deeply looks into this. Yes, read here. The boy was already famous by the time he reached Stanford, and soon his father opened up his importance. His son would have a larger impact than Nelson Mandela, Mahatma Gandhi, and Buddha. He insisted. You know, be surrounded or surround your environment where you are building talent by people who are making you to dream big. You know what that means? You must be surrounded by people who inspire, people who motivate. Ensure that your room is bright, ensure that your room is brimming with hope. And many aspects that really ensure that your spirit is inspired or is brightened. This is the first point that we are looking at when it comes to building your environment. So you see, the mother to Roger Federa, ensured that the boy had many disciplines at his disposal, be it skiing, be it wrestling, be it swimming, be it skateboard. He is motivated, he is encouraged to pick as many disciplines as possible when they're still young, so that when it comes to time to select what they like the most, then they would select without any problem. The other very important point that you really need to understand is on the nature of the items and instruments that are around your working environment, your home environment, and so on. Look at this. In those early years, there was a keyboard, but the keyboard that was being used by Mozart is not the same as the keyboard that was being used by Mark Zuckerberg. The keyboard of Mozart, Wolfgang Amadeus, produced the greatest music probably of the entire human lifetime, save for that of Lucifer, probably. And that of Zuckerberg, a keyboard, yes, brought in what shaped human beings in terms of the social life, so social media. Human beings have never been so much in contact, so much interacting virtually as in the current generation through the meta products of Facebook, Instagram, and Threads, courtesy of Mark Zuckerberg. But the point is, the two gifts or the two talents had one instrument, and that instrument they refer to as the keyboard. Doesn't matter the instruments that are in your room as you prepare for talents, as you prepare for gifts, really matter. It can make or break. Let's see the other aspect that is brought up in this book that you will not really regret having come across them. These, of course, there are many lessons. We're picking aspects that are so. Let's read this part here. Those findings are reminiscent of a speech Steve Jobs gave in which he famously recounted the importance of calligraphy, a class to his design aesthetics. When we were designing the first Macintosh computer, it all came back to me, I said. If I had never dropped in on that single course in college, the Mac would have never had multiple typefaces or proportionally spaced fonts. On electrical engineer Claude Shannon, who launched the information age thanks to a philosophy course he took to fulfillment a requirement at the University of Michigan. Let's continue. In it, he was exposed to the work of self-taught 19th century English logician George Ball, who assigned a value of 1 to a true statement and 0 to a false statement, and showed that logic problems would be solved like math equations. It resulted in absolutely nothing of practical importance until 70 years after Bull passed away, when Shannon did a summer internship at AT&T Bell Lab research facility. There, he recognized that he could combine telephone calls routing technology with the Ball's logic system to encode and transmit any type information electronically. What are we learning here? We are learning here of the fact that sometimes a far-fetched concept would be used in the mainstream concept that you are working on in such a sterling way. You see, this is electronics technology whereby Jobs were designing the Macintosh computer. But now he picks some knowledge that he'd gotten from calligraphy to bring out an aesthetic value on the machine. And up to today, when you look at the Apple products, whether it is, iPhone 17, iPhone 16, you'll always get some physical features and the developments that are unique to it across across the mobile technology. And people would say, hey, iPhone is the best. Why? Because people who build these have unique concepts that are probably driven or picked from a far-fetched concept in a totally different field. Look at Claude Shannon. Shannon, an electrical engineer, but is able to launch information based on some sort of a philosophy that he had learned from a philosophy course in the University of Michigan. You see, electrical engineering and philosophy. But out of this, you are able to build something that is very, very unique. You've heard of the Boolean logics or the Boolean logic gates, 1, 0, and so on. You see, this is a far-fetched tradition concept, but eventually applied in technology and applied in telecommunication in such a great and mighty way. Therefore, when you look at the environment in which people build, environment in which talents are being generated, it's supposed to be carefully choreographed. That's the point. You need to ensure that which item is bought for which purpose, the items that are bought for which purpose. You also need to ensure that you are researching on the individuals who will interact with the young people whose talent you're bringing up and so on. You need to look at the ideology or philosophy that you want to build when you are training, when you are building a tactic, when you are building a philosophy, and so on and so forth. These are the vital concepts that you need to keep in mind as we look into shaping talents and building gifts from amongst the young people. These are special books which you can get by clicking on the link in the description down here, down this video, or you can book some online session of review and mentorship by following through the line that is given down.